system chained and tangled up in lies. Voices shouting, screaming in defeat. Politicians playing games under darkened skies. Hope lost in the dust of the street. Red and blue colors pouring from the sky. Debates turn to anger, the crowd gets loud. Punches flying in the blink of an eye. Truth buried deep beneath the shroud. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak don't survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Faces on the screen, flashing perfect teeth. But behind those eyes, just rot and greed. Politicians turn to whispers beneath. They all just get what they need. Whispering conspiracies, drowning in their lies. Echoes of freedom, lost in cries. Spin the wheel of fate, let's see who rise. But this game will bleed you dry. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive.
All right. That was probably the last week Brahmas is going to still have that intro live. So, welcome to the bullpen. He should be here in just a moment because thanks to Evie Mux, we got a little bit of a mic thing to work out.
Yep.
But yeah, so that was probably the farewell Biden intro. And hopefully next week it'll be the new.
Just a whole bunch of Kamala cackling over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's true. We will be unburdened by the intro that has been. Oh, Southern Maryland. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, not too far from us over here. Yep. It would be nice if Maryland was in any way a swing state, which is why I don't even understand why our boy over there was even throwing Trump under the bus, except for the fact that he really doesn't like him.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to help him win. He was a really popular governor who did a great job in Maryland for what they needed to get done, so he has no shot at winning a Senate election. Larry Hogan is not going to come even close.
Slender. That cackle, though.
Yeah. Miss. Sometimes it really is. It makes sense because Kamala is the candidate of the Hawk Tuah moment. So
true.
That's
that girl's got her 15 minutes of fame, and Kamala spends about 15 minutes on her knees every time she walks into the room.
It was how she got her start in politics. Everyone knows it. Even when they fact check it, the fact check isn't saying that's not what happened. They're just saying, well, that leaves out context that Willie Brown was separated.
Don't slut shame.
Oh, it's the only way to shut her up.
Nice.
Yeah. So we've had since the last show when we had the live breaking news of Biden dropping out and the possibility of a open convention, that evaporated within 24 hours. It seemed like
All due to
Biden,
grassroots.
yeah, or Biden transferring the cash funds to Kamala to thwart the Obamas who wanted Mark Kelly. Oh, that's the background knowledge that we were getting from the leaks was the Obama people wanted the open convention and they wanted to push Mark Kelly as the candidate to take out Trump
Yeah.
because allegedly the Obama thinks that Kamala is as inept as Joe and will squander and screw up the election given the opportunity.
Well, I think we are already seeing that. I still think that the Dems are considering the presidency already gone. This is just to get somebody on there who might generate some interest to get down ballot.
Which for everyone who talks about the giant act blue, like, so that was the other big story, the to show quote unquote grassroots supports for Kamala was the massive $200 million that came in through the Act Blue donation system,
Right.
which is highly suspect and
All
has
first time donations.
yeah, well, not first time. What they do is they take anybody who's made the donations and they launder it through, like, I believe James O'Keefe and his new organization were doing a great expose this week where they were going to people who allegedly donating like $20,000-$30,000 through Act Blue,
Yeah.
and we're like, "Did you know this?" And they live in a trailer park, and they're like, "No, I donated like $10 one time." And then once Act Blue gets your information, they make you you're a straw donor basically, so they can launder giant contributions from billionaires through small donors.
But
But
all the Democrats are claiming that these are all first time donations.
yeah,
Like that it's
and
some, major movement that's happening. Everybody's so excited about Kamala.
that they signed up 170,000 new volunteers, and I think that's highly suspect too. That tells me that it might be people just checking a box on an email list, maybe, or doing, there's a lot of ways you can finagle that bagel to make it sound like a great thing. I don't think this is going to mean 170,000 people are manning phone banks or knocking on doors or doing any of those things. This is the what in some, if you ever watch shows with your wife, if you're married, and they talk about doing a makeover and they refer to it as a glow up, right? where
Right.
where they're polishing this person to try and giving them the best foot forward they can. This is
They're desperately trying
Kamala's,
to rewrite her history.
yeah, this is Kamala's honeymoon / glow up. It'll last about a week to maybe a week and a half, and we've already seen it starting to crumble because there's so Kamala, like, that's why I think somebody like Obama wanted a Mark Kelly. He's never had to actually say anything controversial. He's been in Arizona campaigning as a swing state senator. He's basically all they would say, he's a former astronaut. Yay, he's married
Right.
to a former
Married to
congressman who was
somebody
shot.
also got
Yeah.
shot. Yeah.
So that's why, he's much like Obama, he's an empty suit that any voter could project whatever they wanted onto. And Obama, I think, wants that as the image. In 2020, even though I think all agree there were shenanigans, there was a lot of voters who were older who maybe didn't like Trump. And because Biden didn't really campaign and do much, he was also sort of an empty suit where they could project what they wanted to see.
Right.
Now we've had 4 years to know that that's not how it works, but not everybody pays attention. So you got to watch out. So with Kamala, she's not like, she's got a paper trail, a soundbite trail of saying silly things. She ran for president in 2020, going as left as anybody could. So she still has, and this is, you want to talk about political malfeasance. She still has a Jesse Smollett tweet up saying his was like a modern day lynching. If she was a legit good candidate, her people would have scrubbed that stuff offline, so you at least couldn't find it. Like, you'd have to go to archive or see if people pulled it.
Like they're doing with the Olympics.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing with Kamala is Has she ever actually run against a Republican? Because I don't think she has.
No, I think
She's
California.
run against a Democrat in California.
She was appointed when the position first opened,
I
if I
think the only
remember right,
time she's ever
and
actually
she
run
ran
against a
once.
Republican was as the VP candidate, which wasn't her running the campaign.
Yeah,
I mean, in California, you can have two Democrats running for attorney general.
they call that a jungle primary.
Yeah,
So there's two things that Democrats and even more than Democrats, super establishment rhino types on the right side would also favor. There's two things. One's called a jungle primary, and the other is called ranked choice voting.
yeah, like in Alaska.
Yep. Both are designed to ensure that nobody who actually wants to help you from the right side can ever win. In California, in a jungle primary setting, the way it works is everybody runs in the primary election, and the top two vote getters, regardless of party, move forward to the general election. So you can end up with two Democrats, a Democrat and a Green, whatever combination gets you. Now, in California, a lot of times you're going to end up still with a Republican because Democrat is such a dominant party. You're going to have 10 to 20 Democrats running, and they'll split the Democratic vote into such smaller numbers that a Republican pulling 25 to 30% will be the first or second win, choice in that jungle primary and move on. And then the votes consolidate and you go in there. Now, statewide, it's always two Democrats. It's, that's what I mean. That's how they control that. Like they try to, they're going after Texas with some of the politicians proposing a state electoral college system where for statewide office, a person would have to win a majority of the counties of the state.
Yeah.
And they say that's, it's undemocratic, it's unconstitutional, but they don't have any problems with a jungle primary where statewide office gets completely dominated by just San Francisco and LA. Decide, like San Francisco has a candidate,
Right. LA.
LA. So what happens is LA gets a candidate and San Francisco gets a candidate. And that's who your two choices are for statewide office.
Yeah.
There's a reason Newsom and Kamala and all these other people come out of San Francisco as opposed to some of the people like Garcetti and others who come out of the LA side. Schiff, I believe, is Southern California, LA side. So that's your competition in statewide office in California now is the LA Democrats versus the San Francisco Democrats.
Yeah, I don't think they get a say in what's democratic or not at this point. I mean, this whole thing with their non-primary turning into a non-convention, turning into we just appointed Kamala.
What's crazy is Kamala dropped.
Talk too much about somebody who's never gotten a vote.
Yeah, she dropped out in 2020, so she never even got one single vote in the Democratic primary because she dropped out. I think what was it 5 months before Iowa?
I think it was 3 or 4, but yeah, she dropped out well before the first votes were cast in that race.
And I've seen some Democrat people like, well, she won votes in 2020. It's like no one was voting for Kamala, just like no one was voting for Pence.
If anything, she was the insurance policy for Biden to not get removed because everybody hated her that much.
Yep.
And everybody still hates her that much. They're trying to rewrite history, and it's going to be funny to watch. But it's also maddening that there are so many people in social media and the regular media that are just instantly on board with somebody that they have admitted in the past is a complete moron.
And she really is Veep in real life. She says the stupidest things, and everyone's acting like when she's gone out and given like 2 or 3 fully scripted speeches. She hasn't taken questions from anybody. No reporter questions, none of that.
And that she's goofy ass phone call from the Obamas yesterday.
Yep, where completely she put it on speakerphone.
Where she's got it on speakerphone and still holding it up to her head. I mean, she has no ability to look like a normal person because all she is a creature who wants power, and we all know how she's gotten it in the past. So
now, as I do want to put a caveat, as much as I think she's a bad candidate and will have trouble. President Joe Biden was a historically bad presidential candidate. Like constantly getting knocked out in the primaries, not even with like terrible gaffes, lying, all this kind of stuff. And he managed to, with the aid of shenanigans, win in 2020 because the election was close enough that they could do that.
Well, it was a vote against Trump, not a
Yeah.
vote for Joe Biden. Joe
Which is
Biden didn't even
why,
campaign.
yeah, which is why I'm saying do not pretend, like, as much as we dislike Kamala, that she doesn't have a legitimate, any major party candidate has a shot at winning the election. Like if you're the Democrat nominee or the Republican nominee, you have a shot, a minimum. I would say at least a 25 to 30%, even on a terrible candidate year, you're still there because a Democratic candidate or a Republican candidate basically starts with around 43 to 44% of the vote locked in. It's
Yep.
very rare to get below that. The last time one of the major candidates got below that level was 1992 when Bill Clinton won with 43 or 44% of the popular vote because
The
uh, we
plurality.
we had a third party candidate actually take 20+%
Ross Perot.
with Ross Perot. And he took a little bit from the Democrats, but he mainly took from the Republican side. And that's why George Bush Sr. only got like 37 or 38%. So, one thing that I think technically Bill Clinton won both his elections without getting over 50% of the vote, which was interesting. Uh, he, as popular as they say he was, even when he ran in 96, he didn't actually still crack 50.
Get a majority. Yeah.
No, because Perot ran again and siphoned off enough votes to keep everybody from getting majority. But again, a major party candidate's basically starting with 44%. And can you move it up or move it up or down from there? What
Well,
Biden
you
was
move
getting
the
crushed on,
independents.
yeah, what Biden was getting crushed on is Democrats weren't going to show up because they didn't feel like they were going to, vote for him.
Apathetic election.
They were apathetic, and that's why the margin was creeping up. Now, the polling, and that we'll talk about this later, but the reason you're seeing a quote unquote surge for Kamala isn't that she's polling necessarily better against Trump than other people. It's that she's made some of the apathetic Democrats come back to saying they'll vote. And that's why they really got rid of Biden. It was the down ballot implications of how many losses they would get for the Senate and the House with Biden on the top of the ticket
Right.
from people just not showing up to vote.
Subjects. Yeah, I mean, that is the only thing that has changed in the equation. Adding her in is that you may not have the same apathy that you had a week and a half ago. But it doesn't. I don't know how much it changes the actual presidential election. I mean, she's polling a little bit better, but we're also in the honeymoon period. She also still hasn't actually been nominated. I mean, they're saying that she's got the delegates, sure, but who knows what happens at the convention, or if they even get it to the convention, because they may pull shenanigans before that and just do it by phone. The whole thing's kind of weird, and the whole talking point of Trump won't debate Kamala is ridiculous. Why would you accept a debate with somebody who's not the nominee?
Correct. And Trump has basically said that like he's still fine with doing it. He just doesn't. And
How about you guys figure out your crap first, and then we'll talk about it.
exactly. It, I wouldn't. I would like. I think if the Obama people were more involved, they would do something to try to put some fire on Kamala before this nomination thing goes through, so they can rip that emergency cord if they need to. So I
Right.
don't know if that means a press conference or something confrontational where she actually has to handle a difficult scenario where it's not just a scripted, planned, very choreographed event.
Right. Well, that goes back to the point that we were talking about a few minutes ago. I mean, she's never run against an actual Republican, and now she's running against the biggest gorilla in the room. I mean, he is a bull in a china shop. So this being her first time having to go against anybody who is actually pushing back on her, not just another Democrat, it's going to be interesting to see how she tries to do this, because she was voted the most progressive person in the Senate. They've tried to back off of that, but it happened. We all know it. She is for open borders. She's for giving everybody citizenship. I mean, everything she says is so far to the left that most of the left doesn't even take half of it serious. So we'll see what she will do when she actually starts getting some pushback from people, because normally she just breaks down cackling, because that's what she does anytime she's nervous.
Yeah, she gets that really weird. It reminds me of the movie The Joker, where Arthur Fleck, the main character,
Yeah,
is supposed to have a
just
disorder
inappropriate laughter.
where he'll inappropriate laugh anytime he's stressed.
Yep. And
And
Small Time
because
Republic is right. She did not handle it well when Tulsi challenged her. It ended her campaign the first time she got challenged in a debate, and that
she's
was coming
never,
from the left.
yeah, she's never really had to face, like, when even the one campaign she ran in California, she was the strong front runner at that time. It's not, she
Well,
hasn't.
she had the backing of one of the biggest Democrats at the time, Willie Brown.
Yep. So I don't. She's never really had to face conflict, and when she did, that one time in 2020, when it went off script for her, she just like shut down. It reminded me of Rubio in 2016 against Trump.
Yeah,
Where when he got that conflict and he got little Marcoed,
Little
and
Marco.
he just and of course the one it wasn't Trump that necessarily did, but big old fatty McFattieson kind of nuked
Chris
his
Christie.
campaign. Chris Christie nuked his campaign in the debate too, which is very, very Tulsi esque, where he just like came up and challenged him on it, and he froze up and
Well,
just couldn't respond.
he was already damaged, because he did the one thing you're not supposed to do as a Republican, and that's give the address after the State of the Union. Because the whole thing with the water, he got mocked forever for that. So that pretty much ended any of his election, like national election appeal. It seems to happen every time any Republican gives the response to the State of the Union, no matter what's actually being said.
There was one
It's
Republican
always so bad.
who pulled it off and did it well, and they took him to federal court to nuke him so he couldn't compete. That was out of Virginia with Bob McDonnell. You
Okay.
remember it was Obama's first State of the Union, and what McDonnell did is he went to the Virginia State House and had it full of people and was giving the address from the State House like he was doing a State of the Union, and it actually played really well. And instead of like trying to trim it down and make it a small thing, he competed on kind of a similar stage and gave a really good speech and won. And also, he won Northern Virginia, which is a Democratic stronghold, when he ran for governor. So that was Jack Smith's first run, by the way. They appointed Jack Smith to go after him on fake charges that eventually got turned over on the Supreme Court 9-0,
Right.
where they said he made it all up and he can't prosecute somebody for fake crimes. But he did what his job was to get him convicted, get him out of the election, and move him on.
Character assassination.
Yep, because they had, up until the Supreme Court overruled it. You know what it would always say: convicted felon, Bob McDonnell, convicted
Yep.
felon. He was convicted of bribery charges, and people just read that headline and think, "Oh no, I'm not going to vote for him."
Which
Bribery.
worked then. It's not
Yeah,
working now. The whole
yeah.
convicted felon line is not working against Trump.
Well, it helps Trump that the stuff they're accusing him of is already, it was so,
It's so obvious
it
lawfare.
well, it was already played out in the court, in the public opinion already.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like some, when they got McDonald, it was some nebulous charge about things they accused him of doing in terms of taking money from Virginia corporations for X, Y, and Z. That was not really a public thing. So you're like, oh, that's kind of nefarious getting money. With Trump, the thing they're accusing him of was the Stormy Daniels stuff that was plastered all over TV for years. And everyone knows what that's about. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, how does yeah, it sounds like you paid your lawyer to do lawyer things. Why is that an illegal crime? You coded money you paid to your lawyer as a legal fee.
Right.
Everybody, you like, what do you think I should book it as? Like, what was I supposed to say it was?
Hush money.
Yeah, like, you know, it. And then my favorite part of the court case: did he pay more taxes as a result of coding it this way? Yes, he did. So you're saying he could have done it a different way that would have been legal and would have saved him on taxes? Yeah. So
Yeah. Can
where's
you
the
explain
crime?
what that way is? Because everybody who's ever done one of these, the NDAs, would probably love to know how you're actually supposed to code it and pay less taxes. Because an NDA is not something that's unusual. But I think we should go to our first clip and
Yep.
see if the transition actually screws up everything or not.
Oh,
So
just
this
real
is
quick, just to confirm, yes, Congress does have a slush fund that they do use to pay off people who do have to sign NDAs, and they never can break them because they will be brought up on congressional charges.
yeah, not
So,
just sexy stuff either.
yeah,
It's for any kind of alleged harassment.
like all the people who left Kamala's office constantly over the last couple of years of her being vice
Yeah,
president.
all 92% of the turnover
Mm.
from her office. Yeah. So let's hear from Chuck Schumer on how this primary is going.
When I spoke with her son, the opportunity to win the nomination on her own and to do so from the grassroots up, not top down. We deeply respected that, Hakeem and I did. She said she would work to earn the support of our party, and boy, has she done so in quick order. Vice President Harris has done a truly impressive job securing the majority of delegates needed to win the Democratic Party's nomination to be our next president of the United States. The vast majority of my senators quickly and enthusiastically endorsed her. So now that the process is played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have to.
Hey, it's Jeb.
It's a happy
Please
day.
clap.
What can I
So freaking awkward.
Everybody get, when you have to have your Jeb Bush moment, that's always a good sign of. And we're supposed to believe he was talking to highly engaged people, and
Yeah.
we're supposed to believe that she's exciting the base. Now, she has managed to activate the Swifty segment. I'll say that.
Yeah, the Beyonce and the Swifty segment. Yeah.
Now if they actually vote, I don't know. But this is my favorite. Like they were never gonna be voters that were, how do I put this? Um, what is it? What's the right way you say it? Convincible, movable. You know,
Right. They're
that
never going
voting
to change their
segment.
minds.
That voting segment is solidly locked in. In fact, I have a night because this is where Kamala comes in, and let me share.
Yeah, just the fact that in the same breath you can say, yeah, she's got all the grassroots support just in the past couple days. And it's like it's been 2 days since he announced that he was dropping out. And you're really going to try to say that she has garnered all this grassroots support without having any kind of voting, nothing happening, just she was appointed and boom, she's got support from everybody. Dumbest argument I've ever seen.
Yeah, and this is why if you look at this chart that we're sharing here, what Kamala was brought into, what the reason they're going with Kamala is to excite the number one and really major core voting base of the Democratic Party. It's not black voters. It's not Hispanic voters. It's not women voters in general. It's unmarried women are the core key voting demographic for the Democratic Party. This is a survey of almost 20,000 people, really highly, like done pretty effectively. And what it's showing you is your married men are 59 to 39 Republican. Married women are 56 to 42 Republican. Unmarried men are 52 to 45 Republican. Unmarried women are the only segment of this entire gender group that is majority Democrat, and they are 68 to 31.
Which gives J.D. Vance's point, makes it a lot more poignant. I mean, the whole thing, as the chat's calling out, the childless cat ladies.
Mm-hmm. So this is why I think Kamala ends up possibly moving swing states back into Trump's camp just as much as Biden was losing them. But what Kamala does is protects the Senate candidates and those House candidates in the suburban zones that they had won previously.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more the House candidates. I think the Senate, I mean, they may try to lessen the majority, but I think the Senate is probably going to already be staying with or going to the Republicans. So
yeah, luckily the Senate
House
only has to shift. I think that technically you only need one to get it to a tie, and two to move it into the majority. And we've talked about West Virginia is already a pickup.
Manchin's pickup, yeah.
Yeah, Manchin. So that moves in. The Republicans aren't losing any of their ones where we have an incumbent. So it's all playing defense for the Democrats, and we only need to pick up one more to be a majority without having to use the vice presidency. And I believe Tester is that one. I think Montana is finally ready to move him on.
I tend to agree, yeah.
So I would say that Tester out of Montana would be the one. And this is disappointing to me, but I absolutely think we have no shot in Wisconsin. For some reason, the Tammy or whatever her name is super popular there, and I haven't done enough to look into the candidate we put up, but he's not going anywhere. Michigan is going to be interesting because Mike Rogers is probably going to be the Republican nominee. They're doing we have a couple states that are doing their primaries really, really late.
Yeah.
Arizona does it this week. This is where we find out if Kari Lake officially becomes the Senate nominee. We've got an interesting case in a congressional district where Blake Masters and Abe Hadim, the guy who ran for attorney general and lost barely, are running out of the same congressional district, and Trump endorsed both of them today. He didn't make a choice. He said they're both great America First candidates, and so you vote for whichever one you want. Yeah. But the unmarried female vote is the core contingency of the Democratic Party and the part they need to excite. Joe Biden, if he wasn't losing them to Trump, they were just going to not vote. Right. And this excitement coming in, that's why, make no mistake, this is the same reason why they activated the J.D. Vance cat lady quote.
Why they dug it up from 2020.
Because it specifically does apply to this voting segment, and it's trying to piss them off. Now, does that cat lady line resonate with the Rust Belt? It probably does. It probably helped, like a lot of union guys in Western Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in Michigan are probably like, yeah, those cat ladies are ruining our lives. So that's why I said I think they're making the calculated kind of gambit that they'll probably end up losing the union guys now harder by going after Vance on these things. But the presidency is an out, like the presidency is rolling a hard 8, and they to win. But the other stuff, like keeping the house, gaining the House, and keeping the Senate, is to them more like getting into blackjack odds, where they think that doing this is going to help get the odds even.
And really, Vance isn't wrong with his statement. I mean, the whole point that he's trying to make is, these women who've are childless are able to vote in a party that really wants war at all times at this point. And they're sending your kids to war when they don't have any skin in the game there. It's the same thing we've been saying about voting. You should have to have skin in the game to be able to vote. Some people don't like that.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying repeal the 19th. What I'm saying is there better be skin in the game if you are going to have the ability to push where this country's politics is going.
I mean, I'm a couple steps away from that explanation Michael Ironside gave in Starship Troopers, where like the veterans rose up.
Right.
You were, was it service equals citizenship? That's
Service
when you can vote.
citizenship, yeah.
Because it seemed like Casper Van Dien's parents still had a decent living, were making good money, but they just weren't citizens. So, maybe those people shouldn't be getting to vote.
Which only made some sense because he had to be a citizen to be able to have children. But I don't
No,
know
it
if
said
that's how it
the
worked
lady
or
said
not.
it helped get it faster. You got
Oh,
it
okay.
faster. No, Soul Assassin. I did not serve. My co-host Slender was the one who was in the military. I am an Army brat. If you count being moved around a lot of my early life to bases, then yes, I did that part of the service. My father specifically, he retired in the mid '90s, and he told us all not to join the military at that time. He kind of saw that this was under Clinton, so you could see the people getting promoted and put in charge of things weren't really military guys, and it wasn't going to be a good life or a good situation. And honestly, looking back, I had thoughts about it after 9/11, like a lot of people, like JD Vance, who ended up going and enlisting. And I was in college at the time, so I was going to wait till I finished. And by the time I was finished in college, we were in Iraq, and that was a war that went south fast in terms of the politics and why we were doing it and what it was good for. Iraq was one of the things that kind of really opened my eyes to the neocon problem. I bought into a lot of it early on, like, oh yeah, we shouldn't, after 9/11, don't let someone build up their WMDs and try to come take us out. And then it was very clear within a year and a half that was just a quagmire / debacle that wasn't really about any of that. And
Right.
it was
more payback for his dad.
and it was about neocon goals to just use forever wars to enrich themselves and get, that's one of the first things that I really loved about Trump in 2016 was when he told Jeb to his face, like, your brother was wrong. It was all your fault. It was stupid to go in there and waste all that money, time, and blood and treasure. I have friends who, as most people our age do, if you knew people went in the military, we have friends who died uselessly. I don't talk about this a lot. I went to high school with John Kelly's son. He was in my high school. I was friends with him. He died. And John Kelly may not like hearing this. I view that as a waste, as a complete waste. Not that he did anything dishonorable in what he did and passing away. The fact that he died in the service of a war effort that was just to enrich, realistically to enrich, the people like
and
that.
A lot of it is the hindsight is 2020 stuff too, because
the problem is, I think he didn't pass away.
Did kind of go for it.
I think he didn't pass away till like 2010 or 11.
Yeah.
Like that was way past, like that was, we were way past hindsight being ready to do the fact that we didn't leave
about the start of the war.
Yeah. the fact that we were not out of Afghanistan till 2021, 20, is ridiculous. I mean,
And
it
that
was
went
done
so well.
terribly. Yeah, there was, this is two things can be true at the same time, by the way, Democrats. I can 100% support that we finally left Afghanistan and still think it was done stupid and poorly the way it was executed by the administration. Because they always try to frame Afghanistan as a choice of you were either going to have to leave and get horribly embarrassed that way, including servicemen dying, leaving behind people who had put their lives on line to work as interpreters for us, all that stuff, or we would have to stay in Afghanistan and keep just pumping money into it. I was like, no,
But
that's
the
not
fact
the
that we were
only
trying
choice.
to do it just to have a September 11th, optic didn't wasn't done in the right way. And
Which is why the
Kamala
different
Harris was part of that too.
yeah. The story that came out, I think it was 3 weeks ago. One of the people who was it was a congressman now, or somebody who was telling the story about Trump when they were negotiating with the Taliban,
Mhm.
about the Afghanistan withdrawal, and when they were in a meeting room, and Trump's there with an interpreter to the Taliban. He tells the interpreter, "Tell me exactly what I'm saying," and he goes, "If any American dies, you die." And he takes out a satellite picture of the guy's house and hands it to him and just gets up and walks away after the translator says it exactly. And
Nice.
he and apparently that was why for like the last 18 months of the Trump administration not one American serviceman died, because the
Well,
Taliban, because he had, and Trump had the street cred. He had killed Soleimani. He didn't try to just kill low ranking people. He was like, you went after my people, I bomb you. No, I don't go down the chain of command.
that brings to mind the story of him with Putin. They were in some kind of meeting, and Trump had basically ordered that like Putin had a whole bunch of operatives. I think it was somewhere around 200 that were operating around the world, just getting into all kinds of stuff, and basically got taken out. And Trump is sitting at the meeting with Putin and basically said, I'm just going to let you know we just took out all 200 of those operatives. So just so you know, as we're going into these talks. It was an interesting story. I'll have to dig up who actually told that story, but I think it was somebody on either Bongino's show or Megyn Kelly's show.
Sounds like an
Yes.
Eric Prince kind of story,
Could be.
because I think he goes on Bongino's show a lot.
Sorry, lots of traffic this morning, so trying to mute when there's cars going by. So let's look at what Kamala was doing this week while we were all outraged about the Olympics. She's running around playing with the same type of people.
Hi everyone, it's Kamala Harris. Listen, each day we are seeing our rights and freedoms under attack, including the right of everyone to be who they are, love who they love, openly and with pride. So as we fight back against these attacks, let's all remember, no one is alone. We are all in this together, and your vote is your power. So please make sure your voice is heard this November and register to vote at vote.
So this week, she basically blows off Netanyahu's address to go, what was it? Go talk to her former sorority sisters. And then she's on RuPaul's Drag Race doing a campaign ad. That's what she's accomplished this week.
Yep. And like I said, she's only stayed in the friendliest of friendly confines. Nothing that wasn't scripted. And she still seems a little silly, but they're trying again. I think it's silly to think they don't know that Kamala is terrible, and they want to keep her away from anything where she answers a question from anybody.
Yes. I mean, she's not going on any of the political talk shows yet. I don't think she will. They've got Buttigieg out there doing that on her behalf. I still think it may be Buttigieg who she picks as the VP candidate. And he's really the only one who is capable of stringing together sentences from this administration. He is kind of effective at times, although he's also a complete idiot.
Buttigieg, whatever is, yeah.
Pete Buttigieg, yeah.
Yeah, Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete. I was mayor of a town, and so I should run for president.
What was it? French Lick?
Wherever Notre Dame's at.
Okay.
What city is in Notre Dame in? Notre Dame, Indiana, like the university.
Yeah, I think he was in I don't know. I thought it was a pretty small city that he also did not run all that well. So
no, it wasn't.
And he's been, there's been plenty that's gone wrong. South Bend, yeah, core members, right? There's been plenty that's gone wrong in his office of this administration as well. You look at the Palestine, Ohio thing. You look at, remember when we basically had all the ports of entry shut down to all the shipping at the beginning of this, and he did nothing. The roadways suck. I mean, the whole infrastructure bill has done nothing because all it was a Green New Deal. He's not that, his resume is not that special that I don't think it's going to drive anybody to the polls bringing him on as the VP either. He's much like Kamala Harris. All he's done is a whole bunch of identity politics stuff.
If they nominate
his career,
if they nominate Mayor Pete, to the VP spot, it is specifically because they are anticipating losing the election, and they want to have a checkbox permanently put into their camp, like Geraldine Ferraro in 1984. Mayor Pete, like the first openly gay candidate for president or vice president, was on. It'll be a Trivial Pursuit question.
Yeah. Which I don't know. What are your feelings? Who do you think they're gonna? Do Josh Shapiro.
I just highlighted this specifically because Josh Shapiro actually makes the most sense. The two people that make the most sense to try, if you're really competing, would be him or Whitmer, to try to lock up one of the swing states. Michigan, I think, is more in Trump's camp than at Pennsylvania. So I would have said Shapiro, because Shapiro is also shockingly pretty popular for some reason. It's easy to be a popular governor if you just don't screw things up.
But the media's already attacked him and said, well, he's Jewish, so we
that's
can't do this.
That's the thing. Like, if they nominated Shapiro, he is Jewish, and he has been openly and vocally supportive of Israel and the conflict that's been going on. And that would
not that popular on their side right now.
That would blow up a lot of their voting contingent. So that's why I would say Shapiro is probably not a serious one. Here's what you know. If they actually wanted to win the election, Shapiro would be the choice.
I still don't know that it gets them there.
It would help lock up Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it would help.
If the Obamas are in charge of the decision, it's Mark Kelly.
Yep.
And if Kamala is just completely a puppet, and they're all writing off this election, and they're just trying to activate the unmarried cat ladies, they'll make it Mayor Pete to check a box. I think those are the three choices. I would say with the Shapiro choice, you could interchange Whitmer, basically any of the swing state kind of popular governors, to try to offset it. What you'll notice is
also sacrificing a pawn, maybe. Because if the election can't be won, which that's not exactly what we're saying. As Chad has mentioned, I mean, you've got that certain number of base either way. You're pulling in the independents is who you're trying to sway right now. But if it is so far out of reach that they cannot make this happen, then Whitmer or Newsom or Shapiro, their career is basically over at that point as far as national politics. So I don't think Whitmer or Newsom would even accept the nomination if they were asked.
I'll tell you who one of my dark horses I think I mentioned before is Roy Cooper out of North Carolina. He's also in a swing state, quote unquote, and he is term limited, so he can't run for governor again right now.
And it might
So
get him name recognition.
it would get him name recognition nationally. He's a Southern Democratic governor of a swing state. He would probably take it to try to do it. He's got two scenarios and paths where he could go from here, which is running for the Senate out of North Carolina, in which case being the VP candidate wouldn't necessarily hurt you if you're on a losing ticket.
Right.
Because, Tim Kaine is an example of that. Or he could be positioning himself to run in 2028, and this is his way to actually get that national name recognition. Newsom gets name recognition because California is the biggest economy and statewide.
So it doesn't help him.
Yeah,
to join
he actually, I would say he takes it down. He actually moves down in his political, popular. Like if you think of it like a video game and you're doing XP points, like your life bar goes down if you're Newsom and you run for VP and you lose. If you're Cooper, it goes up because you gain recognition and popularity.
And I'd say same with Whitmer as Newsom.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
Shapiro is still relatively unknown. I mean, most of us who pay a lot of attention know his name, but he's not known nationally that well. So that could be a situation where it would raise his profile a little bit.
I don't think Pennsylvania has term limits on their governor. So that was the other thing. If they don't have term limits, if you're Shapiro, it's probably better for you to stay and get reelected and just maintain being a popular governor of Pennsylvania to position for 2028 than it would to take the L, or even if it's competitive, this is going to be highly contentious. We know this election is going to be there. So it's, I definitely for Whitmer and News, like Whitmer has managed to rack up W after W in Michigan, which is weird. I don't know how. She
was one of the worst during COVID.
She used the abortion issue highly effectively. They added it as a ballot question during her re-election, and it drove cat lady turnout.
And Madison.
So yeah.
University of Wisconsin to the polls.
Well, that's not in Michigan.
Oh, Michigan. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking the wrong.
Yeah, but Wisconsin did the same thing. Like that's a playbook.
Wisconsin did it too, yeah.
That's the Dick Morris / what's his name for Bush? Why am I blanking? Karl Rove. Oh. The Rove / Dick Morris architect move is to use a wedge issue that you can take advantage of to drive the turnout of your base. In 2004, it was gay marriage. There were gay marriage ballots all over the country, especially in swing states that the Bush camp was worried about, and it drove turnout, and it got Bush reelected solidly. It's a very underrated component. Like gay marriage even failed in California as a ballot measure. Nobody ever brings that up because gay marriage
gay marriage got pushed was because Joe Biden opened his mouth early. Obama wasn't ready to announce anything like support for it, and Joe Biden went out during some conference or something and made a statement about how the administration is pro-gay marriage now.
It was on Meet the Press.
Was it Meet the Press?
Yeah.
Joe kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, because Joe and his super Catholic, devoutness was like, God love them, the gays. They should be. We think they should be able to marry who they want.
Yeah, if you recall, Obama was really pissed about that because his actual platform had been that it was between man and a woman. He had announced that multiple times.
Yeah, because he wanted
goes out and screws it up for him.
Yeah, because he wanted to maintain that through 2012. As we know from his comment to the Russians, this is my last election. I'll have more flexibility
Talking to
once I'm
Medvedev.
reelected. Yep. Once he was with his little talk with Medvedev. Terrible. Yeah. So, yeah, circling back to all this, Kamala doing drag race events, not expanding the field,
and not playing well after what we saw at the Olympics opening.
No. I think, do you have some of that too?
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think the Olympics is that's a normie kind of thing where it drives the point home to normies. Because we're very activated, obviously. We're paying attention to all this kind of stuff. This is the kind of thing that actually pushes normal people into seeing that the culture war stuff is really happening, like doing a border in like a full-on satanic inversion. I mean, they're specifically inverting the yeah.
We don't need sound for it.
Yeah. And then you put a little kid next to the dude who has his testicle out.
Yep.
And I've seen them trying to fact check, like, no, it wasn't. I was like, yeah, whatever. Sorry, dude.
And they're trying to erase the video of it off of the internet.
Yeah, they're DMCAing every
on RuPaul's drag race. So I don't think those optics are going to play well for her over the week unless they bury that campaign ad that she made. But yeah, even the Olympics, as Slender's saying, whether it was blasphemous or not, I mean, I didn't want my kids watching it.
Yeah.
There was nothing about that intro. Well, even I've seen people harping on the Marie Antoinette thing, but I mean, it's the Olympics. If you've got your kids trying to watch the opening for the Olympics and you've got a disembodied head singing, it doesn't seem like G-rated. I don't know. I don't have as big a deal with the Antoinette thing.
I don't understand the need to. It was a weird, like, that whole opening ceremony was taking. This is weird to say. Taking the satanic part out was still really like weirdly done. The Parade of Nations was on boats,
right,
going down the river, which was weird. Well, I would hope that it wasn't your ball hanging out, Tina, because that would be weird. But it definitely looked like it. So I don't know. Either way, the kid shouldn't have been there. Right. But the Marie Antoinette thing was, I think you got the best. It was at the Bastille, right, the famous prison, and they had an image of Marie Antoinette headless in every single window as a metal band started to play. I was like, this is weird for the Olympics. I mean, I was perusing it because it came on at like 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon due to the time difference. And I just popped it on to see what it was looking like before, because if we were going to watch it later with my son, I do like to preview things. It's live TV. You can watch it on replay, so you check kind of what's going on. And obviously by then, but by the time we would have watched it with my son, we had checked out. We were like, okay, this is not going to work. I'll just put on individual events if we wanted to see something. Right. But the Marie Antoinette thing, like, why they put it in every single window? I get that it's part of their history and it's a thing. Doing the headless part, it seemed like I've never seen that kind of stuff in an opening ceremony ever. I've watched the Olympics my whole life.
In the opening ceremonies,
China's, but never even like that. Weird. Well, China's wasn't weird. China's was more a demonstration of friggin' power. Yeah. Like, they were using 10,000 people to drum it, and like, China's actually makes perfect sense in the context of that was their coming out party as a global hegemon. Like, we are the other power in the world now. Look at us. So,
yeah, I don't know. The whole Olympic openings has gotten weirder and weirder, and I am not really watching the Olympics this year because of their intro. But, some people in the house still are, and even They've managed to even ruin women's volleyball. They're wearing like
They're wearing
Lululemon.
pants now.
Yeah.
I popped
Nobody
that on.
cared
I
about
popped that on
women's
yesterday,
volleyball.
and I was like, because my wife was watching gymnastics. So we if you use Peacock, they have
Yeah.
the individual. You can just watch the individual events and not like the actual network feed, which is is way better because in the network feed they're cutting between different
Yeah.
events. If you just wanted to watch one, you watch it.
Right.
So as gymnastics finished up, the U.S. men screwed it up like they always do. Anyway,
Oh, did they?
the yeah, well, they put a guy on the team who was just coming off like a major like a career-ending style injury and had recovered. And shocker, he blew up at the Olympics and was falling off things and couldn't land stuff. So terrible sport. So I was like, when she finished, I was like, okay, I'm going to put on beach volleyball. Let's see how this event is going. The U.S. women are playing. I bet it'll be great.
Yeah.
Let's go
U.S. versus
USA.
Canada.
And I turned it on and I was like, they're wearing friggin' yoga pants. I was like, when did this happen?
Right.
I was like, I was like, I seem to have lost all desire to watch the match. I guess I'm gonna go watch something else.
It's kind
I
of
was,
true. I mean,
it's
there
like
was only one reason to be watching women's beach volleyball before.
it was like I mean, women's beach volleyball. It was like playing DOA. I was like, I'm watching this for the athleticism.
Yes. For the perfect Olympic bodies, right?
Yeah, they've got to evade the male gaze. Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Yeah,
Well, can
and
they evade having people actually tune in?
they're gonna lose some ratings for that. I guess they won't care, but whatever. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's
I
the
if you
Olympics.
have Peacock, you can watch individual events that you might be interested in, and then tune it off. And you're not going to give them ratings that they would like. They don't. I don't think they actually want to get that kind of rating. They want it on prime. Watching the prime time feed. What's
Right.
interesting is if you watch the event feeds, you get very little of Olympic messaging. If you when you watch the primetime network one, they push narratives, right? They have those segments where they do the narrative story about the athlete and this and that and the other. But when you watch the event, it is purely just the event, the commentators for the event, and then it ends.
Yeah, it's like watching an actual sport,
Yeah.
not watching all the propaganda.
Yeah, I
But
don't I don't blame
I
you,
won't be
Shaq.
tuning in much this year.
Yeah. I'm not I'm definitely pulling back on what I was going to watch. My wife loves gymnastics. I'm not going to tell her she can't watch the one thing she likes watching every 4 years. For her it's gymnastics and figure skating. I think a lot of women enjoy those sports and watch them. So,
I like curling in the winter.
in the during the summer, I enjoy the swimming events. I kind of find those entertaining to watch because I mean they're so close a lot of times. With you got the turns. I am clearly not an Olympic swimmer, but I enjoyed like every 4 years that. And plus, the United States tended to be very good compared to other countries in swimming. So
Hmm.
it was also one of the events where we would be more dominant. I didn't. I enjoyed watching the United States team win medals, and it's weird that they have steadily been making me not root for Team USA more and more. Like whether it's the women's soccer team and what they were doing, where I genuinely was rooting against a Team USA team, and it was really weird for me to feel like I wanted to see them lose, and I wanted to see them lose badly.
Yep.
So yeah.
Really, really wanted them to lose. So, well,
Yeah.
did you want to bring up the polling because we
Yep.
are
I've got.
at the hour 5?
Yep. Let's see. I've got. So Real Clear Politics has now started filtering in. You'll see we've now got a solid group of Trump Harris polling coming in. And while we've got a couple outliers both ways that we talked about last night, we got Trump +7, which is an outlier, and then the Harris +2 and +1 are outliers. We've settled into, and these again, the newest ones are registered voter polls with high numbers, and Trump is still leading. And it's not that dissimilar to where things were. If you look this day, in history, right? In 2020, Biden was up 9 according to their pollings. The election was not a 9-point blowout.
Right.
In 2016, Trump was up 0.9. I think that was the high watermark of his polling before the end of the election.
Pretty close to it. Yeah.
That was, I think that was coming off of his RNC. I think they did him in July, both of those times.
Do we have any that are the three-way race?
Yeah, so I think when you click on the poll, oh, dang it. Let's see. Why doesn't it want to do that?
And I still think you're seeing the honeymoon still in this a little bit. And any candidate immediately is going to get a honeymoon bump. It doesn't matter which party, doesn't matter who it is. They're going to, it's new, they're going to start talking. So.
Well, here's where you can see where Biden withdraws. They switched their little chart.
Yeah.
And so this was initially where Trump and Harris were under the old, those first batch of polling.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that both of them have moved up slightly. Like
right.
Trump has gone from 47.5 to 47.9, and Harris moved from 45.9 to 46 on average.
Which is about what we're seeing on Polymarket too.
Yeah, so what's shifted in terms of the race is that look, Biden was at 44. This is why I say any major candidate is still going to pull like around 43, 44. That's the kind of the bottom. What the difference is, that 2-point jump from where Biden was to where Harris is happening because she's getting people, not people who are going to, they weren't going to vote. Yeah, they weren't going to vote for Trump, but they were going to stay home from voting for Biden.
Or they were going to vote for RFK.
Yeah. So if you look at where the state of the race was previously with Biden and Trump, it adds a couple points, but it's not a huge swing. Now it is technically, this little glow up is in the upswing. We'll see if it starts to level off, which it looks like it sort of has. Like she's consistently in most polling in that mid 40s range. And then this Forbes Harris X poll, I think that's one where they do what's called eliminating leaners, where people are kind of wishy-washy on who they are going to vote for. They'll make someone, commit, and that's why it's a 51-49. So these are clearly just, the two of them. It doesn't have the stuff.
Look at the three-way race on Polymarket.
Yeah. This is where we have some of this is where Pennsylvania's been polled now a couple times. We've got Emerson giving Trump +2. We've got American Greatness, Trump +2. People's Pundit 51-45. And then Fox's polls are never friendly to Trump. So don't.
No.
That's it's a registered voter poll, and it's a tie at 49-49. And now this is what's interesting. Pennsylvania historically, look at that. In 2020, they had Biden up 7 on the average of polls, and they had Clinton up 3.2. So the fact that Trump is leading, if you are
probably up by 4 more points,
if you're inclined to believe that the polling does skew a little bit,
undersamples,
undersamples, yeah. So yeah, what do we got in the betting markets?
Yep. Let's bring that one in. So Trump has moved up a little bit. I mean, it's down overall from where we were last time, but as far as the betting as of today, up to 59% chance to win, 39% for Kamala.
Yeah, I think Trump had been around 64 the last week, right?
Yeah, we'd have to look at the very end of the show last week and see, well, right before the breaking news came out. They have moved Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania to toss-ups. We kind of saw that last week. So that was
Looks,
pretty immediate with that change there.
yeah, it looks like they still have Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina leaning.
Yeah, there's still a few likely, but most of them have pretty much solidified into whether they're going to be red or blue. So, trying to find the one that has RFK kind of in there now, because I know I saw it yesterday. Weird. I don't see it anymore.
There's 1% for Michelle Obama. There's some people just won't give that up.
Yeah. Little bit insane. Maybe it was a filter on here. Well, I mean, they've got RFK Jr. in there.
Yeah, I think RFK, just now that Kamala has solidified and activated the Democratic side, the RFK number is going to drop. He's definitely not going to win, so why waste your money on that? He could spoil. Now, if you're in the betting market, he's far more likely to act as a spoiler towards
For the
somebody that you'd be
Democrats.
betting. Yep.
Yeah. He's still going to pull more from the Democrat side than he is from the Republican side, I believe. So the high point was 70% Trump and Biden at 18%.
Yeah.
And we're down to 60%, 39%, or 59%, 39%. So the betting is still definitely going, leaning towards Trump by a lot. The House is where it's looking real interesting in the betting market. They've got it as a toss-up leaning towards the Democrats taking the House. The Republican or the Senate, they're calling it lean, and it's 73%. If he got to 75%, I think that goes to, or if they get to 75%, I think that's when that goes to likely. I'm not sure. So that's what we've got in the betting markets, which I tend to trust more than the polls, personally, because that's skin in the game yet again.
Then that is putting money in. I mean, I think it's perfectly regressing to the mean to have it like at a 60-40, roughly.
Yeah.
It's if it was still Biden, I could see why the money would be moving there. But again, as we've harped on, do not take it for granted. Get out there. You still have to do the work.
Vote on day one in your state.
Because any major candidate from one of the two political parties has probably at least a minimum 25 to 30% shot at winning the election at worst, even if they look like a terrible candidate.
Yeah. There were some questions in the chat about whether the trans athletes were being allowed to participate or not.
That's up to the international. Yeah, so that's based on the body that. So the Olympics is not like the governing body. Yeah. So for instance, in swimming, the governing body for swimming said no trans athletes, because Leah Bennett, the one that Riley Gaines had to race
Leah
against,
Thomas,
famously, Leah Thomas, whatever her name was,
his
its name, Ava Chris Tyson, whatever the whatever the name of that individual was, is sued to try to overturn the rule the governing body had made. So there's two things to know of in sports when you're thinking of it. One is the governing body for the individual sport. Like in soccer, it's like the people who do FIFA, like it's FIFA. They make the international rules for it. In swimming, they have, I forget what the name of it is. And if you challenge a rule that a governing body makes, there's actually, and it's weird, it's called the Court for Arbitration in Sport. There's an actual court where you adjudicate issues against the governing bodies of your sports. Leah Thomas went there to try to overturn the ban, and they pieced out and said no. So the ban, like swimming, is banning transgender athletes. Most governing bodies have done that on the international level.
Right.
I'm not aware of one that has allowed them in yet. I know that there's in powerlifting, which is a weird one to allow it. There's a lot of national bodies like Canada, the group that runs the Canadian version has allowed transgender weightlifters, which is why you see them breaking quote unquote world records as in the women's events, but they're not officially becoming world records because the international body isn't recognizing that athlete as eligible to compete.
Right.
It's weird. I mean,
It's a freaking
obviously
mess is what
you've
it
got
is.
you've got Brittany Griner playing for Team USA, and I'm not saying Brittany Griner's a dude, but
neither is Michelle.
let's just say that Russia put Brittany Griner in a men's prison, and that's apparently that is a non-debatable fact. And Russia does have women's prisons, so just take that for what it's worth.
I swear I saw a runner last Olympics that was most definitely a man, baby. I mean, we've
that
had
might be
situations like that
Castor.
for years.
This was a famous case. The person was born a woman, but was genetically more of like a 51-49 woman. Like it was one of those weird. This
Right,
happens,
the hormone levels.
and she allegedly, when they did the testing, had undropped male parts that were still in the system. She was more, she wasn't all the way man, but like hormonally, she was pumping out enough testosterone to qualify as male. And when they tested that, they were kicking her out. And there was all sorts of like she went to the court in arbitration and sport because the track and field body had said no more, you're not allowed, and she lost, I believe. Her name is like Cast or something.
I don't remember. I mean, I remember the situation. I don't remember the name. It wasn't important enough. About the only name I remember from the last few Olympics.
Castor
is Pistorius.
Semina. Yep. She has an intersex condition called 46XY, which causes differences slight in the male-female traits and testosterone level much higher than the typical female range. Oh, did she just win another? It's hard to tell.
And the Russians have long had some questionable athletes.
Oh God, West Germany back in the
West Germany.
That was the running gag.
Yeah, it used to be a joke. Now they're actually trying to allow it. So we're in crazy times. But I think that covers everything we were looking at covering this week, eh?
Yeah, it's still like we're in that weird little lull where it's Kamala's. What's interesting is Kamala being selected stepped on what's usually your traditional post-convention bump for a candidate.
Right.
It sucked the oxygen out of Trump's momentum. And that's why I know some people were getting down on JD Vance this week as a pick because it seems, in the light of it being Kamala, JD Vance seems like, no, JD Vance is the stuff they're saying about Vance was going to be what they said about everybody. So don't worry. Like they actually, it's almost like we have no memory to recall that in 2012 they said Mitt Romney was the next Hitler and was a Yahtzee and was going to put them back in chains, according to Joe Biden.
And McCain was.
And then McCain was that before that.
It's every time. So.
Yep. So
it used to be that spelling potato wrong could disqualify you. Now, not having a functioning brain doesn't disqualify you. So we're in a weird time in politics.
So that did suck out the momentum of the post-convention bump. It'll be interesting to see if Kamala, I don't think she's going to get a convention bump because all of this going on right now kind of makes the convention. She didn't get people voting for her, so there's no excitement of reintroducing and like, hey, I put skin, I voted for her, I want to support her.
Right.
It's like she's getting the attention now. If anything, the convention might just, I feel like the more cameras are on Kamala, the worse her numbers will be.
I still feel like this could just be a trial balloon with her,
Yep.
just to see if the numbers do bump until the convention. And there's nothing saying that they can't just swap it back up at the convention and do something else.
I would say that if they were going to do that, they would somehow maneuver her into doing like some kind of hour-long 60 minutes interview type scenario
Yeah.
where,
Live.
where it's live and she can't get covered up on. It's famous in political circles. You might remember the clips too from 1980 when Edward Kennedy was polling pretty high to take on Jimmy Carter and get the Democratic nomination.
No, I don't remember those.
So it was he did like a 60 minutes interview, and the question was, why do you want to be president? And he blanked.
Couldn't figure out the reason why
He
wanted
couldn't
to be
figure
in
out the
charge.
reason other than basically it's my turn. And it
Right.
just destroyed his momentum and took him out. And it's funny how that can happen, just from one question when it's that important. Like if you can't articulate why you want to be president and what you're going to do, it pretty much destroys your campaign.
Yep.
He never recovered. So
And yeah, the convention is not going to be fun if we just have to watch her cackle through the whole thing.
yep.
I mean, they don't really have any clips of her doing anything or saying anything where she doesn't just break out into laughter. So even if she's not on stage giving the speech at the moment, anytime they try to bring up anything, it's just going to be her cackling and cackling and cackling. So I'm not looking forward to it as much as I was if it was going to be an open convention. But I still do think it's going to be an absolute crap show. So we'll still be watching it. I just don't know that we'll be broadcasting it live as we would have if it was a open convention, because that would have been fun.
Yeah. Still non-zero chance that could happen though. So stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're sticking to any democratic norms as it is, so they can do whatever they want apparently. So we'll see. What do you got coming up this week, bud?
We got our gaming on Tuesday, which we do. Maybe that's right because of
I may not be doing any streams this week.
Yeah. We've got Ascendant Art podcast here on YouTube's or wherever you find it, Rumbles, whatever. On Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll see who our guests are, if any, for this week.
Right.
If Mad comes on, if he's had his nap, if you're available because of stuff. So all sorts of things could happen on who's going to be on. I'll definitely have Slender with me hanging out, and probably
Indeed.
Imp. So,
So I may not be anywhere this week. We'll see.
I did set next Saturday. I will be co-hosting with Script Doctor on his Scripts on Saturday show.
Okay.
So I'll be there on Saturday. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay. Cool. Latest news. We were supposed to, my daughter's baby, they were supposed to induce tomorrow, but apparently that is still in flux. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on. But if my granddaughter is born, I'll probably be taking off the week from shows and meeting the new granddaughter and helping out with some of the stuff that they need help out with in that first week, because it's a big change when you have a kid. So I may be on some shows, I may not be, but I know I will get yelled at by the wife if I am on shows after the baby has been born. So we'll see. If they don't induce tomorrow, I may be on the Monday Meltdown. It's all kind of just up in the air at the moment. So would appreciate prayers on that situation. She's a little bit early, about a week and a half early, but the baby's had some low heartbeat, not real low, nothing drastic that we're really that worried about, but they may end up just saying, all right, let's get her out of there. So we'll see. But thank you, everybody, for being here. Another fun Sunday morning going over the craziness of this last week and what's been going on just kind of everywhere. The Olympics, U.S. politics, it's all a little bit strange right now. So we'll try to keep you up to date on what's going on with the psycho Democrats, and they're just picking their nominees and everything, and we'll see if that nominee actually manages to stick. So I hope everybody has a great week. Thanks for starting it out with us, and we will see you next Sunday. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.